Look, Mara Wells had been through customs on 14 different worlds, and it was always the same tedious process. Show your ID, scan your cargo manifest, confirm you're not smuggling weapons or biological contaminants, and you're done in 15 minutes. 20 if the officer was feeling particularly bureaucratic that day. The Zentara Prime spaceport, however, was about to ruin that track record spectacularly. She stepped up to the customs checkpoint, pulling her battered duffel bag behind her, already rehearsing her standard lines. The officer behind the counter was an insectoid about 4 feet tall with compound eyes that reflected the fluorescent lighting in a way that made Mara slightly nauseated. His name tag read, Officer Kvetch, which honestly felt appropriate given the way his mandibles were already twitching with what looked like preemptive anxiety. "Documentation, please," Kvetch chittered, his translator rendering it in a nasal, perpetually worried tone. Mara slapped her ID card on the counter. "Mara Wells, independent cargo hauler, just here to drop off a shipment and refuel. Should be a quick turnaround." Kvetch picked up the card with 2 of his 6 appendages, examined it with the intensity of someone defusing a bomb, then gestured to the scanning platform. "Please step onto the biological classifier for standard threat assessment." Yeah, Mara had done this 100 times. She stepped onto the circular platform, which hummed to life with a soft blue glow. The scanner would ping her biology, cross-reference it against the Galactic database of 47,000 cataloged species, assign her a threat classification, somewhere between harmless and call security immediately, and that would be that. Except the humming stopped. Then it started again, louder this time, with a distinctly unhealthy grinding sound. Then the display screen above the scanner flickered, went dark, and lit up with text in angry red letters. "Unclassified Apex." Kvetch's mandibles froze mid-twitch. "That's not possible." "What's not possible?" Mara stepped off the platform. "Did I break your scanner? Because I've been told I have that effect on technology, but usually it's just printers and coffee makers." The biological classifier has records for every known sentient species in the galaxy. Kvetch was now frantically tapping at his terminal with 4 limbs simultaneously. "It cannot produce an unclassified result. The database is updated monthly. This scanner was certified just last week." "Okay, so maybe I'm a new species you haven't met yet." Mara tried to be helpful. "I'm human from Earth. We're kind of new to the whole galactic community thing." Kvetch looked up from his terminal, and if insects could convey existential dread through body language, he was nailing it. The designation did not say unclassified species. It said Unclassified Apex. And that's bad because Apex classification is reserved for species at the top of their biosphere's food chain, dominant predators. The scanner ranks threat levels on a scale of 1 to 10. Apex species rank 11 or higher. Kvetch's voice climbed an octave. "You should not be unclassified in Apex. Those terms contradict each other. Either you are in the database or you are not. Either you are an Apex predator or you are not." "Well, I mean, humans are technically persistence hunters. Please do not move." Kvetch hit a button on his terminal, and a cheerful chime played over the spaceport speakers. "Security to checkpoint 7, code orange, possibly code red. I'm not certain of the appropriate protocol for this situation." "Code orange? What happened to yellow?" "We do not use yellow. Orange indicates a biological anomaly requiring immediate investigation." Mara sighed and set down her duffel bag. So much for a quick turnaround. Security arrived in the form of 3 officers, each from a different species, all looking various degrees of confused and alert. Leading them was Commander Grelt, a 7-foot-tall reptilian whose scales had that iridescent quality that probably impressed someone somewhere, but mostly made him look like a walking holographic business card. "Report," Grelt commanded, his voice booming with the kind of authority that suggested he'd never encountered a problem his rank couldn't solve. Kvetch gestured frantically at Mara, then at the scanner, then back at Mara. "The human registered as Unclassified Apex, Commander. I have never seen this designation. The manual does not cover this scenario." Grelt's eyes narrowed into slits. He looked Mara up and down with the expression of someone trying to find the dangerous part of a particularly unimpressive houseplant. She looks harmless. Perhaps the scanner malfunctioned. That's what I said. Mara raised her hand like she was volunteering in class. The scanner is functioning within normal parameters, Vetch insisted. I ran diagnostics twice. Then we will scan her again. Grelt gestured to one of his officers who wheeled over a newer, shinier scanner that probably cost more than Mara's entire ship. This is our military-grade biological classifier. It can detect concealed weapons, hidden augmentations, and genetic modifications down to the cellular level. Step on the platform, please. Mara complied, already knowing how this was going to end. The military scanner hummed, whirred, performed what sounded like 3 separate system checks, and then displayed in even larger, angrier red letters. Unclassified Apex. Extreme caution advised. Oh good, this one thinks I'm extra dangerous, Mara said. That's definitely an improvement. Grelt's confident expression cracked slightly. Bring me the medical scanner from Bay 4. 20 minutes later, they'd tried 6 different scanners. Every single one produced the same result, with minor variations in wording that ranged from unclassified apex to error predator classification exceeds. Parameters to one very confused scanner that simply displayed, "What is this?" before shutting itself down entirely. A small crowd had gathered. Other travelers were being redirected to different checkpoints, which meant word was spreading that something interesting was happening at Checkpoint 7, which in spaceport terms meant that within the hour the entire station would know that Customs had quarantined someone for being too confusing. Grelt had abandoned his confident demeanor and was now scrolling through a datapad with increasing agitation. I'm looking at your species data sheet now, the one filed with the Galactic Registry when Earth applied for trade status. Oh good, that thing. Mara had seen it once. It was mostly accurate. If you ignored the part where the bureaucrat filling it out had clearly been trying very hard to make humans sound non-threatening. It says here that humans are endurance hunters who pursue prey until it dies of exhaustion. Grelt looked up. Is that accurate? I mean, our ancestors did that, yeah. We don't really need to anymore because of grocery stores, but theoretically, it also states that humans consume ethanol, a poison, recreationally for entertainment purposes. Well, when you phrase it like that, it sounds weird. And you have a secondary respiratory system that activates under extreme stress, allowing you to continue fighting even when your primary breathing is compromised. That's just adrenaline and the mammalian dive reflex. It's not that impressive. Grelt set down the datapad. His scales had gone from iridescent to a flat, pale color that suggested his species equivalent of going white with fear. You eat fermented foods intentionally. Are we really going to go through every weird thing humans do? Because I have a ship to refuel and a schedule to keep. You have a backup organ specifically for processing toxins. That's just a liver. Lots of species have livers. Not backup livers designed to handle your intentional consumption of poison. Grelt turned to Vetch. Get me a xenobiologist. Now, I am not qualified to make this determination. Vetch was already on it, chittering rapidly into his communicator. Mara sat down on her duffel bag with a sigh. You know, on Earth, Customs usually just asks if you're carrying any fruits or vegetables. Your planet allows potentially invasive biological matter across borders? Grelt looked horrified. Oh, buddy, if you think that's bad, wait until you hear about our policies on emotional support animals. Professor Quillix arrived 40 minutes later in a cloud of his own self-importance. He was a quadrupedal creature with sleek purple fur and a crest of feathers that he'd clearly groomed for maximum impressiveness. He carried a leather satchel that looked expensive and wore tiny spectacles that Mara was 90% sure were purely decorative. I came as quickly as I could, Quillix announced, his voice dripping with the kind of academic superiority that suggested he'd introduced himself as professor at parties. I was in the middle of a lecture series on apex predator behavioral patterns, but when I heard you'd encountered an unclassified specimen, I simply had to investigate. I've written 17 books on this subject, you understand? 17, Mara repeated flatly. Wow, indeed. Quillix approached her like she was a museum exhibit. circling slowly while making little humming noises, bipedal locomotion, forward-facing eyes, relatively small claws, minimal natural armor. Curious, very curious. I'm right here, you know. You could just ask me questions. In due time. Quillix pulled out some kind of handheld device and waved it at her. Tell me, human, what is your species' primary hunting strategy? We don't really hunt anymore. We have supermarkets. Before supermarkets, Quillix said, with exaggerated patience, I guess we'd chase things until they got tired and collapsed. Then we'd stab them with pointy sticks. Quillix's feathers ruffled with what might have been excitement. Persistence hunting, classic cursorial predation, and your prey species? Pretty much anything that ran away, honestly. Deer, antelope, sometimes mammoths if we were feeling ambitious. Mammoths, Grelt interjected weakly. Those are the large herbivores listed in your data sheet that weigh 4,000 kilograms. Yeah, but we hunted them in groups. We're not crazy. Quillix was frantically taking notes on his data pad. Fascinating. Social pack coordination for megafauna takedowns. And your diet classification? Omnivore. We eat basically everything. Everything, Quillix repeated, his tone suggesting she'd just confirmed something important, including plant matter, animal tissue, fungi, fermented materials, and by your own admission, recreational toxins. When you list it all at once like that, it sounds really questionable. Commander Grelt, Quillix turned to address the increasingly pale-looking security officer. The scanners are working perfectly. That is not reassuring, Grelt said. Humans genuinely do not fit any known classification because they occupy multiple ecological niches simultaneously. Quillix was in full lecture mode now, gesturing enthusiastically with his front appendages. They are persistence predators with the stamina to outlast prey over extended pursuits. They are opportunistic omnivores capable of extracting nutrition from an unusually broad range of sources. And most significantly, they are social pack coordinators who use collaborative hunting strategies to take down prey significantly larger than themselves. So I'm not dangerous, I'm just confusing, Mara offered hopefully. Oh no, you are absolutely dangerous, Quillix corrected cheerfully. The scanner designation of Apex is entirely accurate. What makes you unclassified is that you are simultaneously an endurance predator, an ambush predator through tool use, and a social predator through pack coordination. Most apex species specialize in one strategy. Humans appear to have selected all of them. The crowd that had gathered made a collective sound of concern. It gets better, Quillix continued, clearly enjoying himself now. Humans also demonstrate remarkable environmental adaptability. They occupy every climate zone on their planet, from frozen tundra to arid deserts. They have functional settlements on all 7 continents. 6.5, Mara corrected. Antarctica's more of a research station situation. You live on a continent covered in ice. Only like 4,000 people, and they rotate out. You voluntarily inhabit an environment hostile to your biology for scientific curiosity. When you say it like that, this is unprecedented. Quillix removed his decorative spectacles to polish them unnecessarily. The scanners cannot classify humans because humans are what we call a generalist apex species. You are not the strongest predator, nor the fastest, nor the most specialized. You are simply persistent, adaptable, and disturbingly creative in your problem-solving approaches. Vetch raised one appendage tentatively. So, is she a threat to station security or not? Quillix considered this. That depends. Are you planning to make her chase you across the spaceport until you die of exhaustion? No, Vetch said quickly. Then you should be fine. Probably. Quillix turned back to Mara. I do have more questions if you have time for my 18th book. I really don't, Mara said. Commander Grelt held up one clawed hand. Professor, with respect, I cannot simply wave through a species that breaks our classification system. I need to contact the Galactic Council for official guidance on how to proceed. Oh, come on, Mara groaned. The Galactic Council? Do you know how long that's going to take? I have a delivery deadline. Protocol is protocol. Grelt was already typing into his communicator. In the meantime, you will need to remain in the customs holding area. This is discrimination based on species. This is standard procedure for unclassified biological entities. Mara slumped against the wall while Grelt sent his message to whatever bureaucratic nightmare passed for galactic government. Kvetch offered her a beverage that looked like carbonated mud, which she politely declined. Professor Quillick settled in nearby, clearly planning to use this time for an impromptu interview. "So tell me about Earth's space program," Quillick said, pulling out his datapad again. "How did your species achieve interstellar travel?" "Oh, that's actually a fun story. We didn't really cooperate on it at first. We had these things called nations, and they all wanted to get to space before each other to prove they were better. You developed space travel through competition? Yeah, there was this whole thing called the space race in the 1900s. Two of our biggest nations were basically having a really expensive argument about who could get to the moon first." Quillick's feathers flattened. "You weaponized your space program?" "What? No, I mean, technically the rockets were based on missile technology, but we used them for exploration." "You built your space exploration program on weapons technology." Okay, when you phrase it like that, it sounds bad." Grelt, who had been listening while waiting for his communication to go through, slowly turned around. "Your species developed the ability to leave your planet using modified weapons?" "We also sent a car into space once just to see if we could," Mara added helpfully. "Oh, and we've got like 6 different rovers on Mars, and we crashed one into an asteroid to see what would happen, and we sent a probe outside the solar system with a golden record that has pictures of humans on it in case aliens find it." "You sent your coordinates into deep space," Grelt said slowly, hoping someone would respond. "Yeah, seemed friendly. That is the opposite of what a species concerned with self-preservation does. Look, we were excited about space, okay? We wanted to make friends." Professor Quillick was scribbling notes frantically. "Remarkable, absolutely remarkable. A species that develops interstellar capability through competitive nationalism and then immediately advertises their location to potential threats. What else can you tell me about human culture?" Mara thought for a moment. Well, we've got a pretty substantial entertainment industry, lots of movies and TV shows. What are the themes of these entertainments?" "Oh, the usual action movies where things explode, horror movies where things try to kill you, war movies, disaster movies, superhero movies where enhanced humans fight each other and destroy cities, comedies about our own dysfunction. Your entertainment glorifies violence and destruction?" It's fictional violence, for fun." "For fun," Quillick repeated, writing furiously. "Oh, and we domesticated wolves," Mara continued, not noticing the alarm spreading across her audience's faces. "Turned them into dogs. Now we've got breeds small enough to carry in purses and breeds large enough to ride. Some of them are for work, but mostly we just keep them as companions because they're cute." Kvetch's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You domesticated an apex predator for companionship?" "They're not really apex predators anymore. We bred the scary parts out of most of them. Now they wear sweaters and need therapy for separation anxiety. You genetically modified a predator species to be emotionally dependent on you." "That's a really sinister way to describe dog breeding, but technically yes." Grelt's communicator beeped, saving Mara from further interrogation. He glanced at the screen, and his scales went pale again. "The Council is accessing Earth's files now. They are requesting additional information about human social behavior and cultural practices." "Oh, good. More questions." Mara tried to think of something that would make humans sound less terrifying. "We're really good at making friends. We pack bond with literally anything: dogs, cats, birds, reptiles, robots. Apparently some people bond with their cleaning devices and give them names." "You form emotional attachments to automatons?" "There's a robot on Mars called Opportunity, and when it stopped working after 15 years, thousands of humans mourned it on social media. People wrote songs about it." "You grieve for a machine." "It was a good robot." Quillick looked up from his notes. "This pack bonding instinct, does it extend to other sentient species?" "I mean, probably. We haven't met that many aliens yet, but I assume if you're friendly to us, we'll get attached. That's kind of our thing. We adopt stuff." The collective silence that followed suggested Mara had maybe said something concerning again, but she couldn't figure out what. Grelt's communicator chirped with an incoming priority message. His expression went through several interesting transitions as he read it, starting at confusion, moving through disbelief, and landing somewhere in the vicinity of resigned irritation. "The Galactic Council has responded," he announced, his voice tight. "They are sending a classified file." "Classified?" Kvetch chittered nervously. "Why would information about a new species be classified?" "That is an excellent question." Grelt's datapad beeped as the file downloaded. He opened it, read the first few lines, and his scales flushed from pale to a deep, angry crimson. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." "What?" Mara asked. "What does it say?" Grelt turned the datapad around so everyone could see. At the top of the document, in bold lettering, was a header that read, "Earth, Humanity, Contact Restriction, Alpha 7. Do not engage until natural interstellar achievement." "They already knew about us?" Mara stood up. "The Council knew about Earth?" "Apparently for 63 years, Grelt said, scrolling through the document. "Your planet was flagged during a routine survey of developing civilizations in the Sol sector. The Council classified you as a pre-contact species and placed you under observational quarantine." Professor Quillix had somehow materialized next to Grelt's shoulder, reading along. "Oh my, oh dear, this is fascinating." "What's fascinating?" Mara demanded. "Why didn't they contact us?" According to this, Quillix said, his academic excitement barely contained, "The Council ran predictive simulations for early contact scenarios with humanity. All of them were deemed unacceptable risks." "Unacceptable how?" Grelt continued reading, his voice taking on the tone of someone reciting from a disaster report. "Simulation Batch 1. Early contact with humans results in them achieving faster-than-light travel within 2 decades and accidentally conquering the outer rim through what the report describes as, quote, misplaced enthusiasm and excessive friendliness, unquote." "That doesn't sound that bad," Mara offered. "Simulation Batch 2. Humans befriend the Korthian Empire so aggressively that the Empire's rigid social hierarchy collapses within a generation, destabilizing an entire sector." Okay, that one's maybe on us. Simulation Batch 3. Humans discover they can pack bond with the galaxy's most dangerous predator species and accidentally create an interstellar ecological disaster by adopting them as pets and disrupting 12 different food chains. "In our defense, we didn't know we'd do that. We haven't even met those predators yet." Quillix was practically vibrating with academic glee. The report continues. "It appears that at every single simulation resulted in either galactic political collapse or humans accidentally conquering significant territory, not through malice, but through sheer stubborn determination and an apparently unshakable belief that everything can be solved through friendship and creative problem solving. The Council's conclusion," Grelt read from the summary, "is that humanity represents a stable civilization that poses no direct military threat, but an unacceptable probability of systemic disruption to galactic social order through cultural contamination, aggressive diplomacy, and what multiple xenopsychologists term, quote, weaponized optimism, unquote." "Weaponized optimism," Mara repeated. "They think we're too nice?" "Not too nice, too persistent about being nice." Quillix was taking notes again. "It appears the Council determined that humans are most dangerous when trying to help. The Unclassified Apex designation is not about physical threat. It is about your species' ability to disrupt established systems simply by existing within them." Kvetch raised an appendage. "So what was the Council's recommended approach?" Grelt scrolled to the end of the document. "Wait for humans to develop interstellar travel independently, then integrate them slowly over several centuries while their enthusiasm, quote, mellows with exposure to bureaucratic reality, unquote. The current timeline projected first contact in approximately 200 years. 200 years? Mara laughed. Well, they were off by about a century and a half because we've been trading throughout the sector for 6 months now. The spaceport went very, very quiet. "You have been trading," Grelt said carefully, "for 6 months." Yeah, independent cargo haulers started making runs once we figured out the jump gate system. Pretty good business, actually. Earth exports are popular. And no one noticed humans were the restricted species? I mean, most customs officers just assumed we were working for someone else. Client species doing grunt work, you know? We're not exactly impressive looking. Professor Quillix made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. The council implemented a 200-year quarantine, and humans bypassed it completely by being so unassuming that no one thought to check if they were supposed to be there. That tracks, Mara said. Grelt stared at Mara for a long moment, then at his data pad, then back at Mara. What exactly are you delivering to Zentara Prime? Oh, coffee beans, 300 kilograms of Arabica blend. It's for a cafe in the commercial district. Coffee. Yeah, it's pretty popular. I've been making regular runs for the past 2 months. Good profit margins. Professor Quillix leaned forward with interest. What is coffee? It's a beverage made from roasted plant seeds. Tastes kind of bitter. Smells amazing. Contains a mild stimulant called caffeine. A stimulant, Grelt repeated slowly. Yeah, humans drink it to wake up and stay alert. Most of us have like 2 or 3 cups a day just to function normally. Mara shrugged. It's pretty much the foundation of our entire civilization. We get cranky without it. Gvetch's mandibles began clicking in what might have been panicked laughter. Let me understand this correctly. Humans, the species classified as unclassified apex predators, who the Council deemed too disruptive for contact, require regular doses of a stimulant drug just to achieve baseline functionality. I mean, it's not a drug, it's just coffee. You are chemically dependent on a performance-enhancing substance. That's a really dramatic way to describe my morning routine, but sure. Grelt closed his eyes and pressed his claws against his temples. And you have been distributing this stimulant throughout the sector for months. Distributing sounds sinister. I'm just filling orders. Turns out a lot of species like coffee once they try it. The Zentarans especially, they've got like 15 cafes now. 15, Grelt said weakly. Yeah, it's basically a cultural phenomenon at this point. There's a waiting list for my next shipment. Professor Quillix was writing so fast his datapad was smoking slightly. Remarkable. Humans have integrated into galactic society not through military might or diplomatic channels, but through export of addictive beverages. This will be an entire chapter in my 18th book. It's not addictive, Mara protested. It's just really good. The Zentaran Medical Board reported a 17% increase in productivity and a 42% decrease in mid-shift napping after cafes began opening, Kvetch said, apparently looking this up. They attributed it to improved worker morale. See, we're helping. Grelt's communicator chirped again. He glanced at it and let out a long, hissing sigh. The Council has reviewed the situation. Their official directive is to, quote, avoid creating an incident that might upset the humans. As preliminary reports suggest, they have already established positive trade relationships with 17 species, and disrupting these could trigger the exact scenario we were attempting to prevent, unquote. So I can go. Yes, you can go. Grelt pulled up a new form on his datapad and began typing with aggressive jabs of his claws. I am officially notating your file with clearance code Theta 9, which means you are cleared for unrestricted travel but flagged for observation. What does the observation entail? Absolutely nothing, because we have determined that paying attention to what humans are doing only makes the situation more alarming. Grelt finished typing and gestured toward the corridor. You are free to proceed with your delivery. Please enjoy your stay on Zentara Prime. Mara picked up her duffel bag and started walking, then paused. Just out of curiosity, what does the notation on my file say? Kvetch pulled it up on his terminal and rotated the screen so she could see. In neat, official lettering, it read, Species Human Classification, Unclassified Apex. Threat level, harmless unless caffeinated. Approach with caution before morning. beverage consumption. That's fair, Mara said. As she walked away, she heard Professor Quillix calling after her. Wait, I have more questions. What is this decaf I have heard mentioned? Is it true humans invented a version of coffee without the stimulant, just so they could drink more coffee? Sorry, Professor, I've got a delivery to make, Mara waved without turning around. And after 6 hours in customs, I really need a coffee. Behind her, she heard Kvetch's panicked voice. Should we be concerned that she requires the stimulant after such a short time? Is this normal human behavior? And Grelt's exhausted response, I'm updating the file to include a note that humans become irritable after extended periods without their performance-enhancing beverage. Add a recommendation that all future human interactions be scheduled after they have consumed adequate caffeine. Mara grinned as she headed toward the docking bay. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy through military might or superior technology. They'd done it through coffee, persistence, and the strategic advantage of being consistently underestimated. The Council could add that to their simulations.